So I would face Buddha to talk.
Yeah.
Hi, Buddha.
I think Buddha's a good outline.
Now, what do I actually need to code? I don't actually need to code anything. I can load some code up.
Just load some code and do some stuff.
Load some code and then I'll just pretend to edit it. Let's go.
If you just say 3D platform,
Okay.
I think of like Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, there's elements comparable to Crash Bandicoot, but then there's also stuff that's there's some quite unique elements to it as well that would actually be quite difficult to compare to some existing games. In the unconventionalness of the original Lion Quest is still here, and the main way in which that manifests itself in Lion Quest Infinity is that you actually have this kind of extra layer to the game that wraps around the 3D platformer, and in that outside layer you're controlling a human character, and the human character has a little house and has to go to work, and there's a job, and there's this story that unfolds outside of the Lion Quest narrative, which is then framed through a kind of dream sequences. And when the human character goes to sleep at night, the computer in his house comes to life, and then this Lion Quest world is you enter into the Lion Quest world at that point, and it's kind of ambiguous as to if that's some kind of dream or alternate reality which exists only at night time.
Okay.
Make sure you get Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff looks like she's fallen over. Can't really see her face. Got some Poliwhirls. I bought all 3 Poliwhirls. We've Poliwhirl 1 is over here, and 2 more up there, and I bought all 3 of them off the same person at the car boot sale. And I think I spent £5 on all of them, which by car boot sale prices is actually quite expensive, and I very nearly didn't buy them just on the principle that it was £5. I walked away and came back when I realised that actually in the grand scheme of things, like 3 Poliwhirls for a £5 is the kind of deal that you would never dream of being able to get outside of a car boot sale. Within the Unity editor, if I maximize that, we can get a better shot of it. You can see this section is in 2D. We'll get some sound on here as well. So yeah, this is a 2D section of the game, but with a 3D viewpoint, and we're tasked with infiltrating this kind of location over here. This is near the start of the game, so it's quite a straightforward level mechanically, where the character and the player is still learning how to use things such as the power up. So yeah, one of the kind of main mechanics of this one is that you can swap between the different characters, and you can have them work together to solve puzzles within the game. So at this point, Jefferson, the fox, continues the infiltration. Sorry, it's mouse. Oh, there we go. There's the mouse. This is the shot you need. This is the mouse flying through the house. This is the house that's kind of this is what it looks like in the game. This is in the scene view, which is where I can kind of edit it and I could adjust how the house looks, and then when you play it, it looks like that. It can be so difficult to define even what a video game is, because there's such like variation in what that experience can be. It's essentially anything, anything that's interactive and fun. I think you can probably try and say is some sort of video game. I think I kind of just like decided to have a go at it in terms of like the development aspect of games. I downloaded Unity. I got started with a few tutorials. And I think initially it was just the fact that early on I kind of surprised myself with how much I was able to do with just the kind of like going through the basics. And yeah, like early on I realized that like even though I only knew a little bit, I was like, I could just take this, I could make a whole game with this, and it will be a pretty basic game, but I can actually do something like with like the tools at that point had got so good that like it really was quite practical for just like me at that point to sit down, learn them, and it became clear early on that I'd actually be able to make some form of end product from this. And after that I just kind of continued to use the software continued to get better from it, and everything else kind of came out of that, and yeah, then went from there to where I'm at now, which is knowing a bit more about the like development side of things.
Can you kind of give a description of what it's like to learn how to code from scratch? Is it just like learning a language, or is it a bit more scientific?
Yeah, the initial bit where you start out can be a bit daunting, and I think the challenge of it is that like when coding, you have to know really how to take what you want to happen in the game and translate that into a set of instructions for the computer to kind of process. And it's really, it's in that sense, it's really about extracting the detail of what you want to happen, which if it's say like movement or jumping is often a bit more straightforward, or sorry, a bit more complicated than how you might say describe it to someone if you like played that game. Like there's a lot of detail that you'd have to capture in your code. And then the other challenge to that is the what's the syntax, which is essentially how you actually take that and write it in the correct format in your programming language. So it's like learning a new way to express what you want to do, and then having to write it in a new language, and learning those two things are essentially different skills, and you're having to learn both of them at the same time. So early on it can be a bit of a challenge, because if something doesn't work, you don't know if it's because you just like wrote it out wrong, and it's like almost like akin to like a spelling and grammar error or something, or if you're actually going about it the wrong way, and that's not the way in which you would like make that thing happen in the game. And at this point, we steal the grandfather clock, and then we take Jethro into the portal. Cool. And now I think it crashes because we were. And then I also have here the Panasonic Gamecube, which is definitely one of my favorite and most collectible items. This was a DVD and Gamecube hybrid machine that was made by Panasonic in the early 2000s, and yeah, notable for its kind of unconventional metallic look. Really interesting system, and hooked up and works and can play Gamecube games. So I must say the only DVD I've ever watched on that was the first Lord of the Rings film, and otherwise it's predominantly used as a Gamecube. This is the Kirby Dream Land 3, and then Super Mario World Yoshi's Island 2, and this never came out in Europe, and this did come out in Europe, but is really expensive. This is The Legend of Starfy, which didn't come out in England. We've got Legend of Starfy and Starfy 2, which was like a kind of official GameCube accessory. The actual discs all kind of live in here, whereas the boxes are kind of spread between the drawers. It's been modified to have a backlight in behind the screen, so you can actually see the games really well on that. It's like a GameCube controller that was like a Club Nintendo edition, so it's these Super Mario colors, half blue and half red. Pikachu edition, which is just a really kind of lovely design that they put on onto that one. And then this one below it, this one's super rare because they only made 1,000 of these. It is the Mushroom Edition Nintendo 3DS. Special edition version of Golance actually comes with a watch, which I personally don't wear, but if you did want to wear a Golance watch, you could buy this, and then you would have that item. This is Panzer Dragoon Saga, which is kind of regarded as essentially the best Sega Saturn game that ever came out, and also one of the rarest because it's got this complicated box system with this outer layer and then two inner cases which are notoriously flimsy, and as such it's really difficult to try and get a copy of this game in like fairly presentable conditions such as this one. So I try and look after that and ensure that it stays in nice condition. It twiddles around, and you can use it to play Ridge Racer, and it's almost like a kind of Nintendo Wii style steering wheel thing. Game Boy Micro, which is this, it's like Famicom 20th edition, anniversary edition. We've got the computer down here, which I've nicknamed the Super Cube, which was kind of a joke between me and a friend of mine, where he said that the only reason I was taking the time to build a computer was so that I could emulate Nintendo Gamecube games and play them in high definition. So I bought a sticker with the Gamecube logo off eBay, and the Super Cube was born. But what I mostly use this thing for is making games. It is nighttime, so let's change that. That's now it's afternoon. This is debug. All right, here we go. Monday morning. We're already dressed, but we could wear some different clothes. We could wear this cool T-shirt here, which has got a picture of Jefferson the Fox, and now we're off to work. It was a strange mix of wanting to continue Lion Quest and do more with it. And I mean, around the time that the first Lion Quest came out, I was experimenting with some 3D stuff and realized that I could certainly do something in 3D that takes the components of Lion Quest but explores it in a whole new way, and that made a lot of sense at that point. And then also I realized I wanted to do something that was a bit more story focused, and I went back to that visual novel game that this visual novel game that I'd made previously, and I actually finished that and released that on Steam, and realized that although there's aside from decisions in the story, there's virtually zero interaction in that game. I realized that I would like to bring the story component, or a similar type of story to that in some ways, and bring that into a game with interaction. And from there, the idea of combining that with Lion Quest started to form, and it made a lot of sense to me, in that you could actually have, I guess, like the best of both worlds, in where you've got like what's fundamentally a linear story, and then you've also got challenging game mechanics where you're exploring this kind of imaginative world, and you can have those two that don't necessarily fit together and have it make sense by essentially highlighting the contrast between them and kind of making that the point of the game. There's all sorts of junk in here. Let's get rid of that. This is where the disc-based games go, and you can see that it was all looking pretty tidy until I went and bought Grandia, and now that doesn't like fit in here anywhere. But yeah, Nintendo stuff. Lots of Nintendo stuff in here. What's in the other drawer? Miscellaneous. Lots of Gamecube. The Gamecube has got loads of really cool games, loads of collectible ones, so I've got loads of them. And there's some really cool stuff in the bottom drawer, actually. This is where some of my really obscure Xbox 360 games go. This is stuff that came from Japan, mostly made by Cave, who make these kind of bullet hell shooters, stuff like this. This is, forgot what this is called, it's like Mushi Shimi or something. And it's collector's edition. Experimental thing that goes on your heads and injects you with new thoughts or something. It's not dissimilar to that, but a bit less scientific.